big beefy black guy because
You're not a big beefy black guy?
not yet. Not yet.
Today's technology. That'll happen.
I mean, if I can go from an Audi to an innie, who's to say that? Anyway.
Yo, that's crazy. I recorded all that. I'm gonna do. I'll probably leave this in.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna do an introduction. But when they're listening to this, they're like, "Oh, that's funny."
Nice.
Okay, ready? Welcome back to IdleTalk. Today, it's your boy Fernando. Fabian's not here. I've replaced him with a new boy toy. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Fabian's replacement. I'm Omar.
It's Omar. If you heard that a little bit in the beginning,
Yeah.
I thought when Malik would tell me about Omar, I feel like I already knew Omar, right? I just didn't know what he looked like. I thought that Omar was this big, beefy black guy, like this big, beefy, old, wise guy, because the way he would describe him to me, and it's not out of Malik's character to befriend an older gentleman,
black, beefy, wise guy. I mean,
we met some guy like that at our gym, like this big, broad, like fucking Ronnie Coleman looking ass old man, like. So I thought, oh, great, another wise older figure.
No, I'm probably the complete antithesis to everything that you just said. I'm not. I mean, big is a relative term, but I'm not a big, beefy black guy who's wise. I am a racially ambiguous mutt. Yeah.
I mean, so I'm interested in what constitutes your muttiness.
Yeah, my muddiness.
Your muddiness. I would like to.
To simplify, I claim I'm Filipino, but
that's
I'm
a rep piece. That's
the
a set he reps.
That's the one that like quick, dirty answer. Hey, what are you, Filipino? Just throw it out real quick. Boom, quick, clean.
Easy.
But I'm Filipino and Pakistani. If I want to go deeper into that, my mom is mixed and my biological father is mixed of two races, so I'm a fourth of all of those: Filipino, Welsh, Pakistani, Mali. But
not to be confused
with Somali.
Yes. Yeah. Fabian.
I mean, it could have been that he didn't hear me because sometimes I talk pretty low. Hopefully the mic is picking me up now. But,
no, I got it super sensitive.
Oh, perfect. So if I fart, they'll know.
They'll know. Yeah.
Oh,
they'll know.
Shit.
You could if you want to.
You don't.
Smell test.
This is for preface and reference. This is like our second or third time hanging.
Yeah.
I mean, although we have like hit it off instantly, I don't think he's subjected to the nuclear warfare that comes out of my asshole. Can I curse?
You could curse, yeah.
Asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the stuff that comes out of there is what Ukraine needs to win the war. Like that's I wouldn't want to subject you to that kind of pain.
One time Malik farted and he swore he didn't fart while driving in the car.
And it was just you two?
Yeah. And
yeah, pretty
and
on
then
brand
one
for
time he said, "Hey, I need to fart really bad. Can I roll down all the windows?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Thank you for telling me." And then I caught the one whiff, and I was like, "That was you, you fucking liar! You didn't fucking have the AC setting on where it brings in the outside air. You did fart.
It was circulating?
Yeah, you did fart.
So you're Dutch ovening in the car.
I was like, you farted, you liar. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, that's our boy.
Yeah, it is our boy. Interesting. I was actually gonna make a note of that. You're one of the Malik's work friends that I'm surprised that it took him this long to find like a consistent work friend. Like
you did say that before. You said that the first night
that
we
that
met.
was surprising to me. That's my main point is what hasn't Malik done to drive you away yet?
I don't think it's more so what hasn't he done yet. It's what is my tolerance.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm not gonna lie, one of the main reasons, and I'm not shitting on our job or anything, but like one of the main reasons he feels what I also feel, which is it's hard to make friends, is because everybody walks around with the sense of like, oh, I'm better than you. I mean, we work in biotechnology, so everybody is either like a super smart PhD, postdoc, and no, we're just here like, hey, hi.
That's how it started. He's like, hey, and then you said, oh shit, hi.
Well, honestly, it actually started more offensively than that because, like I said, everybody's a prude. So they'll walk around with like a highbrow, chin in the air kind of thing. And Malik, being in a completely different department, because I work in research and development.
Yeah.
He works in manufacturing. We rarely ever have any overlap. But his team needed help, and I had some downtime, and it was the first time I met with him. And it was an entirely different vibe from every single laboratory, every single meeting, every single workspace that I've had before that point. It felt genuine. I felt like I could relax my shoulders.
Like the whole group? Like,
Yeah.
and that energy and
Yes.
yeah.
So I met Malik and Elizabeth, one of our other coworkers, first. And then I met the remaining of the team, like, more recently. Mm-hmm. And they're my work friends. Like, I leave research and development's workspace area to go hang out with them because I can do my work remotely with them. And I prefer everything on that side of the business because, like, Malik's a goofball. And I can be a goofball around that kind of same energy. Yeah. So, no, it did take a while for me to also find friends.
Friends at work.
Yeah. I'd say Malik and his group of people was the first one.
His previous job, it was kind of the same thing too.
I worked there too.
Did you?
Yeah.
As a contractor or as
a contractor?
That's crazy.
Yep.
That's funny.
Because we're like at work, we're like, oh yeah, I work there, and I'm like, at this location, yeah. What department? And again, we work in separate departments. But he had a more pleasant experience there. I didn't.
Oh yeah, spill the tea.
I mean,
without breaking any NDAs.
I mean, I didn't sign any. I pieced out before they did what they did, which got them in trouble. But
yeah.
I worked in manufacturing at that company, and they painted a picture. Basically, it's like, oh, you'll be working in a laboratory using your degree in biology, where the reality was I was just lifting like
boxes.
No, barrels.
The barrels,
sugar.
Oh shit.
Like sucrose, because it was another company in biotechnology, so they were manufacturing and building vaccines, and a lot of apparently sugar water goes into that, which is cool, I guess, but. Yeah, it would just be 16 hours. Yeah, 16 hours of just lifting.
Yeah.
And it was mandatory overtime. And they would sell it to you like, oh, well, at least you're making overtime. There's no cap on overtime. I need to live.
Well, my body's broken.
I need to live to spend this money, fam. I don't want the majority of this money that I'm making overtime with to go to hospital bills or, like, therapy.
Yeah.
Or,
Therapy as in, like, physical therapy or mental therapy? Well,
I think I'm a strong advocate that regardless if you're good or not, you should have a therapist because just like how you have your physical health, you don't have any ailments, you still go for your annual checkup. Mental health should be treated the same way.
You should go.
But no, it will be physical therapy because that company broke me down. When I say broke me down, I legit was like, hey, no, bye. And kind of didn't even give him a 2-week notice. I was just like, this is my last
I'm out of
day.
here, guys. Can't handle this no more.
There was for God's sake, there was a pregnant lady in the same team as me.
Like
lifting 120 pounds of sugar. And one barrel is 120 pounds.
Yeah.
And there's like 30 to 40 of them because we're putting them to these large bioreactors. They mix like 2,000, 3,000 liters of liquid at a time.
That's fucking crazy.
And I was in charge of pH testing, which is just you take a little bit of the water sample or the liquid sample and you put a meter about this big in it and be like, okay, reading a screen. And she's lifting that crap. And I don't know, I was raised in a way where that doesn't sit right with me. So I asked the supervisor, can we just switch? And he was like, you go to your place. She knows what she's doing. And I'm like, she's
pregnant.
In her 3rd trimester, it looks like.
That's crazy.
I kind of hate this place already. Yeah.
That's insane. That's
the tea.
That is the tea. That is the crazy.
Don't recommend working at.
But he loved it there.
Well, he was in a different department.
Yeah. It was fun. I went there a few times to pick him up. And I was like, hey. I left him a note on his first day there. We packed lunch. I was like, yeah, I'm going to leave you a little note. I was like, I'm going to leave you a note. So when you open this shit in front of people, I'm like, oh, who is that? Yeah, he was like, it's my hubby. And that shit is... Well, it's always so funny. For first impressions, they probably thought, oh, that guy's married to a man.
So in a way that... Malik told you about me. He told me about you.
Yeah.
And the first thing he introduced was, that's my husband.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
And you're like, oh, you're. Yeah. You saw how I don't do that? You saw how my wrist just snapped? Yeah.
I get it. No, but I mean, he spoke so casually about it, so I didn't want to put a spotlight on it because he was like, my husband Fernando, and I'm like, it's okay. You don't want to get canceled. You shouldn't need to have a large reaction, but okay. If he just glances over it, you should also just be like, okay, he has a husband. Boom, information.
Which is not true, but there's incriminating evidence that looks like we're married, like for sure, out there. Like, 100%. Not even like sexual things, but like one time his cousin he's like, oh my god, you guys should hold hands, it'll be funny, and then she took a picture, and I was like, oh shit, well that's out there on the webs. What did she post it one day? Missing my boys. You know,
start blackmailing you with it. I mean,
just it's funny though. It's funny, but
I mean, I call him my like.
I just called him Fabian's replacement, so I just said. So
well,
you know, it's interchangeable.
Like, in terms of the like romantic.
No,
titles,
I mean like
if Malik
like,
is your husband.
Yeah.
I'm like the Mister.
The Mister.
Yeah,
the
because,
Mister.
Like I call him baby, and he calls me baby.
No, but he means it though. He like deep down inside, he be meaning that shit.
Yeah, daddy like, normally likes the mistresses more than the wife, but.
Did you say daddy?
What?
Did you say daddy likes?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Guys, just to like let you guys know that this is supposed to be the serious version.
Oh yeah, I was about to say we were supposed to be like, listen, this is going to be more structured, and we're going to be talking about legitimate topics.
Yeah, well, I wanted to introduce him, get to know him more before the bullshit comes around. But the bullshit came and went.
Yeah.
But let's get back. You talked about everybody needs a therapist.
Yes.
So just walk me through your. Like, what was your biggest lesson from therapy, and has therapy always been, like, accessible to you?
Really good questions. One, I'm not in therapy. I need to be. And I say that as a person who's currently suffering from, like, bad mental health days. To a certain extent, it's not been diagnosed. Mind you, I haven't been to a therapist, but I do think I have some sort of anxiety or depression. It could have been because of the pandemic. I don't know. All I know is in larger group settings, which this has never occurred before, I get clammy, I get jittery, I get fidgety. But anyway, I do suffer from depression, seasonal depression, or like random bouts of it. I just know because of the way I was brought up, it wasn't ever a thing for consideration. One lesson that I think I can learn from it is to like accept certain flaws, because a lot of that is what leads into my depression. I'm an overthinker, and it's like if I see a flaw in an aspect of my life, I'm going to hyper focus on it, and instead of enjoying all the rainbows that the other aspects of my life are providing, I'm looking at this one thunderstorm, and I get buried in it. I know that's not something I can process on my own. Mm-hmm. So therapy is something that I feel can help that.
Yeah.
Accessibility, especially now, today's day and age, you can reach out to a therapist via an app somewhere, but I feel like to a certain extent the market is flooded with these teletherapy apps that doesn't provide quality mental health services.
Yeah.
Now mind you, the sit down on the Chase couch and tell me how you feel kind of stuff costs a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot, that accessibility question is then turned into, well, is it appropriately priced? Mm-hmm. And, that's a whole new can of worms. But I think one thing that's not really talked about is, especially being a minority, being raised in America, first generation, how are
is that distracting?
It's not. Okay. No, but how are our first generation minority Americans dealing with their cultural
stigmatization?
Divides of mental health? Because being from relating to my muddiness, being from a family with diametrically opposing cultures, like again, my father's Pakistani, so conservative Muslim. My mother was Filipino, and she was raised Roman Catholic, so it's they're in the same spectrum of like Abrahamic religions, but one's a little bit more liberal than another, if you get what I'm saying. And I know growing up in a household like that, even if they did come from different backgrounds, both of them stressed the unimportance of mental health. It's, you should be mentally resilient. You should be able to handle this. I'm also the oldest child, so that's I'm parent number 3.
Older child burden syndrome,
Yes, and it's real. And I think, because there's a lot of topics on mental health that gets talked about and gets the spotlight. I just want to throw this out there into the gauntlet because I don't feel like it's talked about enough.
Okay.
How, first generation minority Americans who have to, in a way, assimilate their upbringing with their own identity as an American. How are y'all mental health doing? Are you okay? Because, as crazy as it sounds, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who have a foreign friend, first generation, and they're an overachiever. They're a hyperachiever, and for some reason they sometimes can't handle it, and they either get the imposter syndrome or the pressure does get to them, and they have unhealthy tendencies. Me, but everybody knows of that. Everybody knows of the they're carrying the weight of the world of their family on their shoulders, so they have to achieve. Are we as a society asking, are they okay enough? Because it's like, oh yeah,
Probably not.
no, probably not, right?
Probably not.
So, yeah, that was my little thing.
Yeah, that was that's something that I don't really think about when we talk about like mental health or therapy. So, and the only way I thought about it before is when you see, especially in forms of media, when like a mother and a father are getting divorced and they go to therapy as a family to try to rebuild that family. And I thought, what if like first generation like families, like instead of going to therapy because mom and dad are getting a divorce, what if they just like go to therapy to really talk about like, is that first child okay, especially now at this age, right? So if you're like our age and you go like, hey mom, hey dad, can we just talk to this therapist real quick and just try to like
address baby traumas.
Yeah, especially because it's the traumas, like I like to think it's from being the first, because I'm the first one too. A lot of those traumas aren't intentional or aren't on purpose. It's just like the lack of knowledge, and they were
mixed with high expectations.
Yeah, and they were just working with what they knew at the time and what they thought was the only thing. But now that everybody's a little bit more open or a little bit more willing to be open, I think it would just be so much easier if you were able to. Because I know some parents are stubborn as a motherfucker and they think they're okay, they don't want to do anything. But I think it would just be maybe prioritize that family therapy too as well. Yeah, just like you said, it's something to think about, really. Like what you said, that had no real focus on it. I was like, holy shit, definitely not.
Yeah, I mean it's a very niche topic, but as niche as it is, it affects a lot of people because we live in a country where we're called the mixing pot. Like unless you structure your friend group that way, which hey, that's your cup of tea. If you only have a certain kind of people, that's on you. But no, like everybody knows, culturally speaking, we all come from different places. So the things that affect us mentally, like a person of color versus a non-person of color, cultural things will affect their mental health differently. You can kind of pick that apart even more, and it's like, well,
you could pick apart everything.
Well, within certain minorities, like how can certain things affect like Southeast Asianers versus Africans? Mm-hmm. Because, like, I think that also will provide a better context for mental health as a whole. It'll kind of, I guess, flesh it out in a way.
Yeah. So my question is now, I've been to like 3 therapists, 3 different ones, and they've all been like white people, 2 women and 1 man. Mm-hmm. But I've never been like, hey, can I get a Mexican therapist? I've never thought about it, but then again, I've never like randomly gotten like a Mexican therapist, right? So, do you think there's like some sort of like, I think the word is discrepancy between representation and the groups of people that need to get therapy? So, if you were to sit down with a guy who's majority white, and you've got these 4 different like melting pots of culture within you in your blood, so it's like, how are you relate to advice? Exactly. Not, let alone for the 1, right, or 2 that typically people have, but you have 4 different, like you said, opposing cultures at times.
Yeah. Now, although I'm 4 things, like culturally, I've been raised like the bridge between Filipino culture and Pakistani. The other 2, I don't even like consider culturally my upbringing. But still, 2 is, especially since they're very like diametrically opposed cultures. It's hard. And if I, for example, had a therapist that couldn't relate to those culture, especially if my traumas are coming from those cultural frictions, if my therapist can't relate, all you're really going to be giving is either one anecdotal advice that you saw somewhere or you read up on, but you can't speak to because, I personally believe a good therapist is somebody who can relate and then provide context and structure like unbiased.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't see my story because you don't have those same glasses, well, it's kind of like the blind leading the blind, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I don't think it's like there should be a requirement of like, oh, only Asians should have Asian therapists. No,
No.
But like, I feel like maybe there should be a not a screening, but like a, hey, are you well versed in this person's culture?
Mm-hmm.
If the patient in this setting, if the patient's traumas are coming from cultural, tensions,
Mm-hmm.
well, then have the therapist that can speak to that cultural tension.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I wouldn't go to a dermatologist for my teeth, kind of thing.
Or your BBL.
Well, you would go.
To your dermatologist?
Just the scarring.
Oh.
Because I know.
I meant
I'll
to
take
go
that as a
get it.
compliment.
I meant to go get your BBL.
I thought that was a compliment because you say my ass fat.
Oh. I haven't seen it yet.
Yet. Keyword. Yeah. Sorry, I had to cut the tension there. But no, yeah. I think that... So, to answer your original questions, I think there are a lot of lessons that can be learned in therapy. That's like the obvious one that everybody already been knew. But accessibility... The accessibility is there, but is it quality? Kind of, that's the next question that I think we should address.
Yeah, the quality of these accessible therapists, these BetterHelp sites.
Right, because like if is it really therapy if you're using the logging on the phone as as a channel to the resource of therapy, by all means, but if a therapist session is defined as a 35-minute Zoom call, are you really working through your trauma in that or whatever? I mean,
no, I think because I've done one of those. It was like a free one, and like through like a college.
It was free for a fucking reason.
through like a college, right?
Right.
And it was like you get 8 of these, 40 minutes. And I was like, perfect, that's enough of them. But it really felt like I was like venting to the person the whole time, and then like I would leave, and I'm like, did I solve anything? No. But did it feel good to bitch at the therapist? Yeah, that felt good. Yeah.
Honestly, and that's the difference. Like, has therapy just simply been diluted to somebody who's willing to be your verbal punching bag or be like your trauma vomit absorber? Mm-hmm. Because, I'm not trying to like stir the pot when I say this, but when you're like with your close friends, you would say, "Oh, we had a therapy session."
Exactly.
All you really did was just vent, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
did it feel good to vent? Yeah, it did.
But I'm sure there are certain
things. But the
things
underlying reasoning and feelings are still gonna be there.
Right. I'm sure that nothing has been addressed. And if that's what it takes, you just need to bitch, whine, and complain. Do that. No one's gonna judge you. But like, they've now built a market out of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, subscribe for X whatever 99 a month to just vent to somebody.
To vent to your friends. Yeah.
It's not even your friend. It's a stranger.
It's a stranger who's pretending to be your friend.
Yeah.
Who'll use all that stuff you overshared to make you think that you're connected.
I mean, I'm sure a regular therapist would do that, but I think it's a little bit more ethical because, like, mind you, again, I've never been to a therapy session, but my preconceived notion is if you sit down on that long chase and you're actually, like, somebody's there jotting notes or trying to actually pick apart your problems as you're throwing the story, their main focus is the problem and your perspective on it and how they can introduce new factors for you to change it or address it. Versus, hey, can you see me? Can you see me? Is my camera on? Okay, yeah, so this is what Brandon really pissed me off today. Sheila, like, no, like that's kind of fucked up.
That is fucked up, yeah. But apparently people like it.
If it works for you,
apparently
it works. But I feel like at the very least, another thing that we should be talking about in the context of mental health is what resources are required to just, what quality resources are available for the real mental health problems. Because, I can't even say real mental health because mental health is legit. But like
everything is real, but
right. But like the stuff that's like you really need,
but the
proper like
I know
critical
what you're trying to
care
say.
and attention.
Yeah.
Versus, because if something's just on your heart and on your soul,
your fundamental, like the deep rooted like things that are wrong with you,
right?
To try to solve those instead of trying to just like pick up the leaves and put it in a different pile, and now you have to still clean up that pile, and then you put it on top of another one, and it's just like you're just moving,
right?
Just moving the pile, the mess,
right? So like what how much of the quality resources are there for the heavier mental health issues, and are we doing a good job providing, those outlets for people to vent? Because if that's what it takes, and I know that there's a large majority of people who just need to get it off their chest, and if that's what it takes and that's what helps you get to the next day, hey, you're human. Keep pushing. Keep going.
Yeah.
Is that also enough? Is there enough of that for people?
I was gonna say no. I don't think there is, because I want to just another fundamental problem I think with mental health and therapy is I grew up and people were like, oh, I want to be a psychologist, and then the person has always been like a lot of people have been like, what the fuck are you gonna do? Just sit down and with a notebook all day? Like,
just analyze people.
You gotta be a doctor, even though they're like doctors in their own right, or like a dentist, or like a scientist.
The money's
like
not there, right?
Yeah, it's always like, you're not gonna make any money you're not gonna do this, you're not gonna change anybody, blah blah blah. And I think that, again, that's the growing up like problems that people who probably wanted to do that but got peer pressured out of not being a psychologist and doing something else. I think there's that stigma of like, it's not worth to have that job, because how many of them need their own like therapist, or like
it's one of those questions that you never think of, like, who's the mailman's mailman? Like, who's a therapist? Because behind the notebook or behind the webcam, they're also a person. And they're just because they're somebody's therapist doesn't mean that they're immune to mental health.
Exactly. Because they have their own thing that they're dealing with, and then they have
work.
8 other people's things that they're carrying with them all day. And
shoot,
like,
mentally speaking, even if you're fine, even if you didn't have any issues, this is like a personal thing, but that's one of the main reasons I can't be as resilient and available to my friend group or family anymore, because for a long time I used to be the verbal punching bag or the trauma vomit catcher just to hear people vent. At one point in my life, nothing was stressing me out. I was doing well in school. I was really happy in my relationship. Like, everything was all fine and dandy. But hearing people's problems, and too many of it at a large frequency, I started to get messed up. And I'm like, okay, I can't do this anymore.
I'm going through this, please.
And people are out here, actually, like you said, handling 8 different people's
entire life.
Like problems for their paycheck. Like, don't get me wrong. Everybody's been there. It's like, oh, I hate my job. I think that would pale in comparison compared to, like, being a therapist who has to hear people constantly throw their negativity
at
like,
them. Yeah.
All the
time. You're just carrying the negativity, all the weight of that on you throughout the day.
Honestly, like, therapists are slept on.
Like, you'll be, like, at a Whole Foods or something, and you're like...
existential stare.
Yeah, you're just looking at the bottle, you're like...
Mango doesn't exist, neither does I.
Casey, why did you throw this mango bottle at your ex while he was leaving your house?
How did you?
And now you're like, I can imagine there's like these quote triggers of like things like from stories that people tell, and they're like, oh yeah, this hydro flask once hit somebody.
And have a completely separate moment.
Yeah, like I'm having my own moment because I'm remembering a story of a hydro flask, but this is not a hydro flask. But I used to be that person, like you were saying. I used to just listen to people, but now like I've rudely, I think, have done this thing where I'm like, I'm not available to receive what you're about to give me.
I'll say. So, do you say it like that?
I say it like that.
I don't think that's rude,
bro. I said it on the show too. It was like one of the 3rd, 4th episodes. I was like, man, sometimes I don't tell people my stuff because I don't know if they're gonna be ready to receive my stuff, and I would like the same consideration back. I was like, and I told the old co-host, I was like, I don't care if your your dog ran away and your grandma's missing. I don't care. Like, I'm not ready for that.
I mean, the way I see it, I prefer directness. So like, I think it's being kind, not rude, because you're letting me save the breath. I don't have to put myself through that. Like, if it's mental trauma or emotional trauma, everybody already knows this. Once you retell a story, you kind of relive those experiences and those emotions. So like, if I'm about to tell you some shit that got me upset, thanks for not letting me get upset.
You're welcome. Got your back always.
It's just like, hey, sorry, I'm not available for that right now. You want to talk about something pleasant? We can have a full-blown conversation.
Did you watch that new Mario movie? That was pretty cool.
Peaches.
Yeah, you can't believe you got that.
Yeah, that song stuck in my head.
That song stuck in everybody's head.
Yeah.
And we had a little pre-production meeting about how I was like, what are we going to talk about? What do you not want to talk about certain things?
I'm open.
Open. So
like
he talked
legs
about
in a book.
He talked about being in a relationship earlier. Let's switch the pivot. Let's pivot away. So, how long have you been in a relationship?
Going on 8 years.
8 years. Another guys, if you listened so far,
Yeah,
another person with a really long relationship. So, is it still going? What's going on? Let us know. You still in it? Yep.
Yes, I am still in it. As far as I know, at least.
As
I left the house taken. So, the answer for now is yes.
Yes. So, what's the biggest thing you've learned from being in this super long relationship?
This is gonna sound super cliche, but I do think it's especially not like no shade or whatever, but this younger generation in dating, I feel like they're a lot like they're very superficial at times. It's like, wait, do you got a bag? Riz me up. First of all, this new terminology. I'm gonna sound old as fuck, but like,
how old are you?
27. I'm not like that old, but like
that's an old fart bag.
I feel like it.
You're not fucking with the Riz, the Brizzler.
I mean, that was my elbows. I have an old decrepit body, but I feel like I'm like a refined soul in a way. But my shit was spit your game, not riz me up. Riz me up. No, I'm gonna spit my game.
It's short for charisma.
I think I threw up a little and just swallowed it.
I saw you. I think I saw you do that a little bit.
But no, the one thing I learned in this long relationship is really be with somebody who is a friend, and ideally a best friend, because don't get me wrong, I wish blessings and love, abundance to everybody out there, but the honeymoon phase is gonna end. Okay, you're not gonna be looking at each other and just wanting to pounce all the time, or just be all cuddled up, or oh I love you so much, I love you too, man. Eventually you're just gonna be like, hey sup, hey.
I haven't seen you in a few days. Where you been?
Well,
sleeping in the bed.
I mean, I wouldn't say a few days, but it's just like, can you just sit in silence with your partner? Because if you like, that's something you can do with your best friend, right? You don't necessarily have to interact. It's just like, hey, sup, playing the game, me studying, or hey, I'm cooking, you're on the couch on your phone. Like, is there a dynamic in a way where you can be in each other's presence without needing to interact? Because at one point, like, it happened here and there, but we really thought to each other, like, wait, is this what a relationship is supposed to be like? Like, not trying to sound like, oh, I'm judging my own relationship,
honestly,
but it's like,
you could have ended it right there, and you're like, no, I missed the honeymoon phase, and then boom, 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 like, as soon as that's over, all right, this is done, I'm out of here. Could have done that.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, but it's a unique question to think of, because you're not saying it like, I guess, qualifying your relationship. It's like a eureka moment, like, wait, this is what a relationship is supposed to be like? I just feel relaxed. Yeah. I can be goofy. I don't feel like I have to, like, she farts in front of me. Like, spread cheeks, type ass, just in the, like, particulates in the air and all. And I'm just like, cool. Like, you nice. Want chicken nuggets? Like, that's the biggest lesson, like, for me. It's be with somebody who's like your best friend, because I've been in relationships where the person that I'd want to talk to isn't the person I'm in a relationship with, and it's like, well, at that point, why are you in a relationship with somebody?
Yeah.
If you naturally just don't want to, like, get closer and closer to somebody, I'm not saying be stuck at their hip, but it's just like, hey, yeah, I can vibe with you, I can talk with you, I don't feel like certain topics I can't discuss with you. Like, you'd want your partner to be your best friend before they're your partner, because there are going to be some days where you're going to be mad at them, but you get mad at your best friend, you still know they got your back, right?
That's true. That is very true.
How many of us are in relationships where the answer to that question is no, if the partner's mad at you? And at that point, maybe you should take an introspective look. That's a tough question. I'm just saying.
I'm not even in one, and I just was like, whoa.
I'm just, even if you're single, picture yourself in a relationship, because I truly believe the more you know about yourself, the better a relationship with anybody will be, whether it's with an incompatible person or not. But, like, what are you willing to be with somebody who you probably couldn't stand if they were mad at you?
Not me. If you can't tolerate me when you're mad at me, then what's the point?
Right.
What's the point, everybody?
I mean, that, yeah. Hits pen. Those questions.
Next question. What's the point? So, any challenges that have stuck out to you that you were like, if we didn't get over this, it probably would have ended right there?
Yes, and this does tie into a different cultural upbringing. My partner is black. She was raised here in America, in Baltimore. I mean, I was raised here, but like I was raised with a different cultural upbringing. Excuse me. But if you can, because I know this is the ideal, and we don't live in an ideal world, but get along with your partner's family.
Oof.
Or at the very least, be strong enough to set boundaries and adhere to them, because from there you can build if you have set boundaries, instead of trying to like bridge a gap that you have no business bridging, because that's kind of what happened to us. Not more so with her family, but since my family is kind of the outlier, and think a very different way, that they're really good people. I love them. I can't speak highly about my parents, but they have that foreigner mentality, for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
And my partner trying to like reach out to them, all they saw was, this woman is stealing our son away. Like I said,
and
mind you, I'm the
oldest.
I'm the oldest male. If you're foreign, if you know, you know. A male, the oldest. By there's only two of us, me and my younger sister, and she's 8 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
So like
my younger sister's 8 years younger than me too.
Are we the same person?
Probably. I'm just 26.
Yes, we're the same person. But no, be with, like, at least get along with them? Question mark? Or at least be cordial?
I don't even know. Just survive somehow.
No, that should not be the metric of like the standard. That should not be the benchmark, because that's us right now. Because my fam and her, it's a rocky relationship.
Do you think it'll get better as your parents age?
I hope so.
Or you
I'm
think they'll
optimistic.
Be, like, stubborn the whole time all the way out.
The optimist in me says it will get better. It has to get better. The realist in me is like, I feel like there are going to be bouts where everybody's really, really getting along, and there's going to be like, hey, I'm not coming over this year for Thanksgiving kind of thing. And that's okay. I'm going through this new phase of life where I am trying to be okay with the things I can't control.
Yeah.
And if that's how it's going to be, it's unfortunate. Do I wish it was better? Of course.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
Last question. Yeah.
Last question I got for you. This is more about you. Okay. Let's say you find a way to talk to yourself right before your 21st birthday. What do you say to yourself? You've got 30 minutes with yourself.
30 minutes sit down with an old Omar.
With an old Omar.
Or a young Omar?
A younger Omar, yeah. Maybe the new Omar, because maybe he listens to you and then you no longer exist. That's
some like Marvel timeline. Yeah. I can't answer that question. I'm not high enough for that. Maybe on the second part, but
part 2?
In a timeline where I could just go back in time,
talk to you,
and speak to the day before 21 Omar.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask myself this question: who was that Omar? I know I was definitely going through stuff with family and school, and I was going through a lot.
Damn, I just picked because I felt like that's like
that's
a turning point in your life. 21,
yeah.
You know. So you got 30 minutes too. You can unpack them. Maybe you unpack a lot of stuff. Let's see. Where do you?
The first thing I'd say is stop bitching. Stop bitching, because a lot of the problem, and I don't say this as a like, tough love kind of thing. I say this as a real kind of, the problems I had at 21, Fernando, pale in comparison to the problems I have at 27. And I know 6 years may sound like a lot. To some people, it might sound like nothing. But to me, it felt like it was that just yesterday. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm worried about trying to get this appeal to take organic chemistry. Like, bro, just like you'll be fine. even if you did have to switch your major and continue school for however many more years, because I was in school for, it took me 7 years to get my bachelor's degree, but hey, we still fucking crossed that finish line.
You did it.
But no, yeah, stop fucking bitching, dude. You'll be okay. Like, and I say this in a, obviously with the knowledge that I'm armed, being future Omar, going back, you'll live through this. So stop feeling like the world is gonna end because it didn't.
Yeah.
First and foremost. Second, love more. Love more. Stop being hypercritical of the things you aren't receiving and just start giving more of yourself to others. Because the 21-year-old Omar was especially within my familial relationship and my romantic relationship, I was hypercritical of the parties I was involved with. Like with my partner, I'd say, can I get more of this? Can I get more of that? Can we do more of this? Instead of thank you for being attentive and always just being a little bit more appreciative. Just stop being hypercritical of stuff. Everything's gonna be okay, and stop picking shit apart and be more grateful. Big 3 things, I'd say.
Damn,
and
that is.
You said 30 minutes,
really.
10 minutes each topic. That's it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because those would be the 3 biggest things that I'd say stunted a lot of growth, ruined a lot of relationships, or just always held me back in whatever aspect of my life during that moment.
Yeah.
Those three things. If somebody could just like beat me upside the head to knock those issues out, I'd be a lot happier 27-year-old Omar.
Oh. That was the most impressive answer that I've gotten ever in my life when I asked that question. I haven't asked it very much, but that was.
Hey, I don't mind being top of the leaderboard for now.
Yeah. You hit some personal notes for me. I was like, yo, that's crazy.
So we are the same person.
You listening, Fernando?
Take notes vigorously.
We could beat the system by doing it a year before.
Now
a year closer.
I was going to say, now the real step is go back in time.
Go back in time.
Yeah. No, but yeah, those are the 3. I think.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think those 3 would be the same questions if you just change the ages. Like, okay, before 21, or before 30, because that's something that I'd still try to adhere to, being conscious as I just said it.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to be faltering on a lot of those similar issues, but I'm going to be more mentally aware of it. And I hope that I can maintain that mental awareness of stop bitching, stop being hypercritical, and be more gracious, be more gratitude, like show more appreciation. If I can keep those 3 central to my being and get better at it as I age, I feel like if everybody could do that, but I feel like my outlook on life would just get better with time.
Nah, man, that was a great thing to end on. I always like to, when I bring somebody new on, it doesn't matter if I've known them for my whole life or in your case I've known you 2 days. I've always liked to learn something from these episodes, and I think most of them I have. Regarding the ones I do by myself, when I have somebody else on, I always like leaving, whether it be Fabian, whether it be Malik. I have had Malik on 3 or 4 times already, but there's always been something of significance that I've taken away, and I think today has been those last 3 antidotes. It's stop bitching, stop being hypercritical, and show more gratitude. I think that's the key takeaway from this first half of the 2 parts that we'll have. We'll get to know Omar in a
more intimate setting,
lighter note.
Yeah,
but I wanted to ask some thought-provoking questions because our categories are self-help and comedy. So comedy loading up real soon. We're gonna take a short break, but that has been
no, we're not.
This,
but yeah, we are
short-ish. That has been this week's episode, and I thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for tuning in. See, I'm showing gratitude.
Yeah, see,
it's working. It's happening. Omar, anything to say to let the people go off onto whatever else they're doing today?
Besides those last 3 things, just also, this is the 4th bonus. Love yourself. That's something that I'm trying to I'm struggling to do that more because, we'll get into it in part 2. But yeah, love yourself.
Subscribe on YouTube. You got to go in the search bar. You got to put @IdleTalk Pod because YouTube now has handles, so that'll be easier to follow.
They're doing too much. I didn't even know that. That's too much.
@IdleTalk Pod. We'll see you there. Peace.
See ya.